Hello and welcome again today. I thought we'd do something a little fun this week. I like the concept of walking through the questions of a political compass test, but it's kind of beaten to death. This week I was going to do something on COVID, but that's also beaten to death. So I wadded up two scripts already and threw them away. So I thought I'd do something off script. In my Discord, which you can join by the way if you wish, someone brought up the 9 axes test, and I remember doing it years ago and finding it pretty cool. So I thought, why not record myself doing it here today? So what is the 9 axes test? Well, it gauges the things that predict someone's politics or predict someone's basic philosophy or outlook on how society should be structured. And from that, it lists 9 different things on binary left versus right axes, such as freedom versus authority, that kind of thing. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get it started. First up, I would very much enjoy doing all 216 questions, but I think that would drag a little long for a video. So let's just go ahead and do the 45 question one. Number 1, immigrants should be expected to learn the language of the country. I absolutely agree. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion, even if it is wrong. Well, they've only 2 questions in and they've already thrown us a poser here. Because, first of all, who decides what is right and wrong? And second of all, I don't like majority opinion being what drives governance, because democracy is just tyranny over the minority. I disagree with the second part of this because of who decides what's right and wrong, and I also disagree with the first part because I dislike democracy. This is a hard one for me to answer because I don't like government at all. However, I do think if you have elected officials, they should do what their constituents want, even if it's not what the powers that be want. But that's not necessarily right or wrong, so this is a very difficult question for me to answer. On one hand, I agree that if you elect people to do a job, they should do what the people who elect them want to do. On the disagree side of things, I don't think that it's the government's place to decide what's right and wrong at all. I'm going to disagree because I think this is speaking in a broad spectrum national democracy type of vein, which I think is terrible. So I'm going to say disagree. All societies are a blend of cultures. Well, I suppose my first question would be, what does one mean by culture? This seems like a leading question to get me to say I agree, because it's almost impossible to factually argue with this statement. Because what is a society? It is a social amalgamation of people in an area that create culture together. As such, in the modern era, almost every Western nation is a mix of different cultures. But then again, not all societies on planet Earth follow suit, so I'm going to disagree. War usually leads to worse outcomes. I absolutely agree. It is very important to maintain law and order. Somewhat agree. Any deals other countries want must be bad for us. That's not particularly true, is it? Nations often have beneficial trade deals, as well as beneficial migration or alliance of military forces deals that could be good for both places. I'm going to disagree with that statement because I believe that nations can get along and agree. Some freedom must be given up in order to keep people safe. That is absolutely true. Well, wait. Just because it's a true statement doesn't mean I agree with it. Some freedom must be given up in order to keep people safe. People give up freedoms in pursuit of safety. See, this question almost tricked me into strongly agreeing when really I think, in essence, I strongly disagree. Because of this word right here, must. If it was just if this was a quiz and it asked me if this was something people did, I would say strongly agree because this is what governments have wanted us to do for 200 years now. So I'm going to disagree in spirit strongly because I think freedom must be upheld and it's up to individuals to keep themselves safe. Genetic modification should be used rarely, if ever. I like science and I like science fiction and I want to reach the stars. Disagree. Elections are a waste of resources. Strongly agree. No authority should be left unquestioned. Strongly agree. Democracy is more than a decision-making process. Well, this is a poser now, isn't it? This is so loaded I don't know how to answer it because democracy means a lot of things. And it can mean things to other people, such as the spirit of democracy. The United States is a representative republic. It's a constitutional republic that has elected representatives that go to run a federal system. Now, technically, you could say we are a democracy because we have elected officials that go up the chain even further to run states and the federal government. But I think what this is asking here is there more to spirit of what democracy means other than the nuts and bolts of the decision making process? I do agree with this factually. So I don't know if I agree with it in spirit, though, because I hate democracy. I think democracy is terrible. Well, as worded, I can't find a way to disagree with that, so I'm going to click agree. I support single-payer universal health care. Absolutely not, because I'm actually educated about what this means and how it's implemented, so I strongly disagree. I don't like federal health care at all. There is no need for local or state government. Slightly disagree, because in the world that we live, we have to have some type of structure to have order, as well as protection from things like China. So, I believe in the world we occupy, even though I'm an ANCAP at heart, I do think that we currently have a need of a state or government. So I am going to slightly agree with this. Disagree with this. Local governments address issues that the national government would never touch without them. I think that's probably true. A national government must be strong to adequately protect all its citizens. I strongly disagree because it is not the government's job to protect me, it's the government's job to protect the state itself. The state is a body through which to protect the people of the nation. So I strongly disagree. The United Nations should be abolished. I strongly agree. It is a decrepit, anti-white, anti-truth organization. People's freedom should have no limits. Well, I mean, in spirit, yes, but should I have the freedom to run down the street with a knife and massacre everyone I come across? I should have that freedom, but that freedom should be impeded by those who seek to defend themselves. So this is, again, a very difficult question to answer. I do somewhat agree with this, but not strongly agree, so we'll click agree. Only extremely talented immigrants, if that, should be permitted into the country. I strongly agree. The United Nations needs more power. Oh, no. Government should be as concerned about foreign citizens as they are about those within their borders. I disagree. Environmental regulations are essential. I do like the environment, and I do not want it to be polluted and abused. But at the same time, I don't like regulations how this quiz means it, which is federal regulations from a federal committee. Again, this is where me being an ANCAP at heart really sways my decisions on these. I understand the value of being a state, and I understand the value of having state regulation. But at the same time, I hate those things and don't think that they should be ethically. I'm going to somewhat disagree. Not totally, but somewhat. Religion usually provides the truth. Well, if there was ever a loaded statement, what do you mean by truth? What do you mean by provide? I do believe that what most people on planet Earth believe to be a truth, or the truth by which they live, does come from religion. But see, I'm a skeptic atheist. I don't believe that truth comes from faith. I believe truth is fact. I am not a spiritual dreamer. I don't think that truth is subjective. I'm going to say no. The national government can't understand what the people need. I agree. It is important that we maintain the traditions of our past. I absolutely agree. Because once you lose sight of what made you what you are, it is almost impossible to have quality grounding that makes your nation sustainable and healthy. I don't think that we should be stuck in the mud and just repeat the same things forever in perpetuity, but humans are so dynamic that's an impossibility. No single culture is going to have exactly the same traditions for hundreds of years. Things grow and change because of how dynamic human beings are. But if we don't try to maintain them, if we don't put effort into maintaining the things that made us what we are, they'll just evaporate. They'll become ephemeral and then they'll be gone forever. So I do strongly agree. Religious clothing should be banned from public. No, I don't want anyone telling me what I can and can't wear. Strongly disagree. All humans share a common identity. Oof, another loaded one. What do you mean by identity? One could even pose the question, what do you mean by human? I don't think so at all. I think this is a stupid statement dreamed up by SJWs. Strongly disagree. There must be a separation between church and state. I strongly agree with that. I want there to be a separation from everything in the state. The state can fuck off. Alliances can pose a threat to a nation's sovereignty. Definitely. They definitely can. The government should not regulate the economy at all. Agreed. I believe in a higher power. I do not. The government should support and only recognize one religion. I don't think there should be a government, and I don't think it should recognize anything. However, when it comes to the government supporting and recognizing a religion, it should be the primary religion of the nation, and nations only have one. So this is a difficult one for me to answer, because I don't think that the government should get its nose into people's private lives at all. But if the government is going to recognize and support a religion, it should be the primary dominant religion of its people. But since I want separation of church and state, I want to say disagree, but I have a feeling this is a loaded question. And this question is asking me if I want a multicultural government that accepts Islam, which I most certainly don't. Because I feel like this question is about this part and not this part. So I'm going to strongly agree in spirit, because I think that's what the question wants. It wants to know if I am a nationalist or a multiculturalist, and I am a nationalist, so I will click strongly agree. The internet should be banned. LOL. Traditions are of no value on their own. I don't even know what this statement is. Okay, there has to be people for anything to have value. This is a stupid statement. This could be asking two things. This could be posing that traditions carried out by people who are ignorant of their meaning and their implication or connection to the past are hollow, which would be true. Or it could be saying traditions are of no value on their own, meaning the more modernist leftist version of traditions are pointless because they only have value when we assign value to them in a postmodernist way. I want to agree with this because a tradition is just a tradition. If you don't know why you do the traditions you do, they don't really have any value. You have to be taught the value, and cultural values, morals, ethics, the duties that you have to your community, those have to be taught and learned and felt. So I am going to agree with this. There should be compulsory military service. I don't think anything should be compulsory, and I don't really like the military, so no. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. Fuck taxes. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. I bet you all know what I'm going to click on this one. Fuck you, state. Whistleblowers should be strongly protected. Well, definitely. Fight the corruption, drain the swamp. We should respect those who have served in our military. Now, while I don't like the monopo state, and I do not like the warmongering war machine that the gross monopo state has become in America, I do respect those who have served, because most of the time, people who get wrapped up in military, they are normal people or people down on their luck that need some way to live or want to be part of something bigger than them, and they give of themselves in service of others, which is a noble, precious thing, and I think that we should honor that. So definitely respect those who have served, even if you don't like the machine itself, so strongly agree. Capitalism is better than any existing alternative. If we actually fucking had capitalism, yes, but I still agree in spirit. Countries fall apart with constant war. Not necessarily. America's doing pretty good. It's been basically at war 90% of the years it's been existent. But, as a truism, I do think war is bad for a nation. But this says country, not nation, although I doubt that the rubes that put this together can differentiate between the two. Well, who's been at war constantly in the last 1,000 years? Spain, England, France, China, and the United States. They're all doing pretty damn well, so I'm going to say strongly disagree. Society could not function without leaders and followers. That's sort of a stupid statement, because everyone on Earth is one of these two things in regards to everything they do in life. Work, play, sport, whatever. You are a leader or a follower in everything you do, unless you're doing something that is not at all connected to society or others. So, obviously, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others that we've tried. Now, in a way, I agree with this, because I don't think this literally means mob rule. I believe that this is speaking loosely in the way that people, i.e. Westerners, mean this in the Anglosphere when they say democracy. They mean the governmental systems implemented by white Anglo-Westerners, because it's all sort of based on British common law and classic liberalism. I think that's what this means by democracy. So in the spirit of this, yes, I agree. But I would like to go on record saying that I hate democracy, true democracy, and I think that it is a broken, stupid system that leads to mob rule and the destruction of the state, which is not a bad thing. So I believe I am going to agree with this because of how I believe they mean this for the purpose of this test. So agree. Alliances are important for protecting a nation. I agree. In the modern era, militaries aren't really necessary. Strongly disagree. If you do not have a strong military, you are opening up yourself for someone bigger and more powerful to easily come in and snatch up anything that they want from you. So disagree. People should think of themselves as citizens of their nation rather than their state. Well, of course, because the nation makes the state. The state is something you work against. I'm an American, obviously, but I believe that the state is something that you need to keep at the barrel of a gun, not the other way around. The state works for you. We don't work for them. And I believe that people should think of themselves as their nation, not their state. So I strongly agree. Okay, that's it. That's all the questions. Here we are. My top one, I am 70% towards federal, then unitary. Moderate authoritarian, it says. I am 65% towards authoritarian, 35% towards democracy, which is laughable. I'm an isolationist. Apparently, I'm 30% globalist, which is ridiculous. I'm a moderate militarist, which is strange. It does, in my opinion, get my extreme freedom bar correct. The top 4 bars, I think, are completely wrong about me. When it comes to the freedom, though, I strongly lean on the freedom side towards the security side. I think everybody should speak softly and carry a big stick and protect themselves. So at least on the freedom versus security bar, I feel that is an excellent representation of me. Again, fanatic markets. I am strongly free market, free enterprise. Like I've told you before, I am ANCAP at heart. When it comes to secular versus religious, I am not surprised to see that I am almost even split. I see the value, the cultural and spiritual value of having a shared healthy religion, and I also believe those things should be kept separate from business and government. I don't think that one should tell the other what to do, going either way. So I am not surprised to see myself rather evenly split on that one. When it comes to progress versus tradition, I'm a little surprised that I am more progressive than traditionalist, because I think I just have an association with the word progressive to mean something stupid. But using the word progress in a more scientific or even science fiction sense, I could definitely see how I am more progressive than traditionalist. But again, not very surprised to see a rather even split unless you mean the word progressive versus traditional in a political sense. Then I think I would be like 75% traditionalist here. The last one is strange. It is assimilationist versus multinationalist. And apparently I am a fanatic assimilationist. I would not consider myself a fanatic anything, but when it comes to assimilation versus multicultural, I of course lean heavily towards assimilation, but I don't even know what this bar is supposed to represent on the political spectrum, because nothing about the political interaction of how we vote, who we vote for, etc., has much to do with assimilation versus multiculturalism, because we as voting citizens aren't even asked about these things. They don't ask us about immigration numbers. They don't ask us about multinational conglomerates abusing the visa program to pump in immigrants. So, I mean, in spirit, I suppose this is supposed to have some type of effect on politics, even though, since we live in a terrible globalist-dominated world, I don't really think this much matters for the way that we vote or the personal politics we have. Regardless, we have come to the end of this. I hope that you had a wonderful time. I sort of had a fun time. I would prefer to do I don't know, a test that has more intelligently designed questions and answers, but then again, you can't have everything. But I'm done with this for now. I hope that you enjoyed listening, and as always, peace and profits.